Some nights, a familiar role feels like an act of kindness. It answers before you have to decide who you are and what this moment asks of you. That relief is easy to dismiss as fakery. We tell ourselves the brave answer is to drop the act and say what the real self wants. But that advice misses why the act feels so merciful. Answering honestly means answering. You must choose the words, accept what they reveal, and live with what follows. A role seems to lower that burden. The good employee stays agreeable. The strong friend says they're fine. The confident person speaks before doubt catches up. For a few minutes, you get to stop answering from scratch. You become something fixed with lines already prepared. This is where Jean-Paul Sartre becomes useful. He called this kind of escape bad faith. It isn't simply lying to other people. It's the quieter attempt to treat yourself like a finished object, as if a title, habit, or personality could settle what you are. That may sound harsh. A familiar role often helps us survive an awkward dinner, a tense meeting, or an empty evening when freedom feels less like a gift and more like unpaid work. Sartre's point isn't that every role is false, it's that no role can carry the full weight of being you. So the aim isn't to hunt for a pure self hidden under every performance. That can become another script, complete with its own approved opinions and carefully casual clothes. By the end of tonight, I want to leave you with this. See how we escape our freedom, why the escape feels kind, and how we might live with less pretense without pretending we can become fixed. If you enjoy thinking through questions like this with me, subscribing helps others find them too. Liking and sharing the video helps even more. Now, let's begin. You know the familiar lines before you notice you're using them. You walk through the door, hear a familiar voice, and become the reliable one, the capable one, the easygoing one, or the person who never needs much. At work, your title tells you how to stand and what deserves your attention. With family, one look can return everyone to roles they learned years ago. There's comfort in that, almost an embarrassing amount of comfort. After a long day, you may not want to invent yourself again for one more conversation. You don't want to search for the perfect honest response. The line you already know feels easier. You want to make the right face, perform the expected gesture, and let the evening continue without having to explain why you're quiet. A role can feel kind because it answers before you must. It gives you a small set of choices. It tells you what other people expect, which feelings can be shown, and which excuses will be accepted. The busy employee can leave early because there's another deadline. The strong sibling can avoid asking for help. The funny friend can turn discomfort into a joke before anyone looks too closely. None of this proves the role is true. Relief proves something simpler. Being exposed is tiring. When no script is available, every reply seems to carry more weight. You have to choose what to reveal. You have to risk being misunderstood. You may even have to admit that you don't know what you feel yet. Freedom sounds generous until it arrives at 9 at night and asks you to produce an answer from nothing. This is why pretending isn't always cheap fakery performed for other people. Sometimes it's refuge. The practiced persona supplies the words, the posture, and even the reason you can't stay longer. For a moment, you're spared the strain of deciding who will speak. You can feel that shift when someone asks how you are, and the familiar answer appears with a tiny click. Busy, fine, just tired. The words may be incomplete, but they close the space. They protect you from the awkward pause in which a more exposed answer might emerge. So when a role settles over you and brings relief, it may not mean you've found yourself. It may mean you've found somewhere to hide from having to answer. Why can that shelter feel kinder than freedom? Because freedom rarely feels like a wide open field. Most days it feels like being asked to respond before you know who you are. The role offers an easier arrangement. It tells you what someone like you does next. At work, your face settles into the expression the room expects. Calm, capable, agreeable. Maybe you're the dependable one, so you accept another task. Maybe you're the funny one, so you turn discomfort into a joke. Nobody forces the expression onto you. That's part of why it works. You step into it, and the next few minutes become simpler. Calling this hypocrisy misses the point. A hypocrite says one thing and does another, but you can perform a role sincerely. You may care about doing good work. You may love the people who rely on you. The refuge begins when the role stops being something you do and starts feeling like a settled account of what you are. That settled feeling has a quiet appeal. If you are simply the responsible one, then perhaps you don't have to examine every yes. If you are simply shy, then perhaps the unopened message needs no decision. If you are simply difficult, generous, unlucky, practical, or strong, whole areas of life can seem decided in advance. Sartre helps clarify this because he doesn't treat the performed self as a cheap disguise. He sees how merciful it can feel. We're unfinished, yet we keep having to act. We can't wait for a final version of ourselves to arrive before answering the email, entering the conversation, or choosing whether to stay. A role gives this moving life a firm outline. It says, "This is just what I am." That sentence loosens the grip of answerability. A fixed thing doesn't have to choose what it means. A chair doesn't wonder whether it has become too accommodating. A clock doesn't regret the hour it keeps. We aren't objects like that, but a role lets us borrow their innocence for a while. This is the plain doorway into what Sartre calls bad faith. It isn't merely lying to other people. It's the attempt to take shelter inside a finished description of yourself, so your choices appear to belong to the description rather than to you. Pretending, then, can be gentle before it becomes evasive. The role doesn't only conceal you from the room, it offers relief from the unsettling fact that the person wearing it is still responsible for what happens next. You can feel this most clearly when the role works. You say the reassuring thing. You keep the meeting calm. You make the joke that saves dinner from becoming an argument. Everyone relaxes, and for a moment, so do you. The role has done something useful. It has helped you function, reassured other people, and removed some friction from the day. There's nothing false about that relief. We need roles to live together. You can't enter every conversation carrying every fear, memory, desire, and doubt you have. A role gives the moment a shape. It tells you which part of yourself belongs at the desk, beside the hospital bed, or at a crowded table where two relatives have already started discussing politics. The trouble starts when that useful shape becomes a hiding place. You're no longer using the role to meet the moment. You're asking it to answer for your whole life. The dependable one can't admit resentment. The successful one can't feel lost. The easygoing one can't object without seeming to break character. Each performance becomes smoother, while the person performing it has less room to move. Then comes that odd pause after a social script goes perfectly. The room is satisfied. Nobody is angry. Your reputation is safe. Yet something in the success feels vacant, almost embarrassing. You got exactly the response the role was built to produce, and it still didn't settle you. The awkward aftertaste isn't proof that the role was useless. It's proof that usefulness and truth aren't the same thing. A role can organize your behavior. It can't contain every possibility of the person living through it. Relief narrows the field. It reduces conflict, cuts down uncertainty, and makes tomorrow easier to predict. But a life can become too narrow even when nothing looks wrong from outside. You may be comfortable and still notice that fewer honest reactions seem available to you. This is why comfort can mislead us. We often treat the end of friction as a final answer. If a role soothes us, we assume it must explain us. But soothing is a function, not a verdict. The role may be doing its job perfectly while quietly claiming more authority than it deserves. Once you notice that split, another temptation appears. If the role isn't the whole person, perhaps the missing answer is buried somewhere underneath it, untouched and waiting. The role's success has not made you free. It has only made the wish for a hidden original much easier to believe. That wish is easy to understand. It's calming to believe that beneath the polite voice, the family role, the job title, and all your practiced reactions, there is a finished version of you. Nothing has to be created. The answer is already there, stored safely out of reach. This belief makes identity feel like a search with a guaranteed prize. If you could strip away enough influence, expectation and performance, you would finally reach the person you were meant to find. Every awkward role becomes a costume. Every doubt becomes proof that the costume doesn't fit. Behind the whole rack, we hope there is one sealed original, untouched by any of it. There's tenderness in that hope. We want some part of us to have escaped the compromises we made to belong. We want to know that the years spent pleasing people, staying quiet, chasing approval, or trying to look certain did not alter us beyond recognition. A hidden self offers relief because it means we don't have to face identity as unfinished. We only have to recover what was covered up. But that promise quietly changes what authenticity means. It turns being a person into finding a thing. Your life becomes an excavation, and every choice is judged by whether it reveals the object buried inside you. A friendship feels false because it draws out a version of you that seems unfamiliar. A career feels wrong because it doesn't match an old image. Even change can seem suspicious, as if becoming someone new betrays someone more original. This is where Sartre becomes difficult in a useful way. He refuses to place a completed person behind the roles. Take every costume from the rack, and you don't uncover one final outfit marked real. You find someone who still has to live, choose, and answer for what those choices make possible. That refusal can feel almost rude. We came looking for reassurance that our identity was intact, and he removes the hiding place. Yet he also shows why the fantasy had such power. If the real you is stored somewhere, identity can be found. If it isn't, then identity must be born through time among other people, without a prior answer to certify each move. So if the role cannot rescue us, and no sealed original waits behind it, what exactly are we hoping to find underneath? A paper knife begins with a plan. Before the first piece of metal is cut, someone has already decided its shape, its use, and the kind of object it will be. The maker has a design. The finished tool then matches it, well or badly. That order makes sense for things we manufacture. Their purpose comes first, the object comes second. If you ask what a paper knife is, its design and intended use can provide a firm answer. It was made according to a recipe that existed before it did. Nothing about the knife has to decide what kind of thing it will become. Sartre says a person does not arrive in that order. There is no finished human recipe waiting before your life begins. You exist first. You find yourself here, already involved with a world, and only then does a life take shape through what you do. This is what he means when he says existence comes before any fixed nature. Here, a fixed nature means the settled definition that would tell us what a human being is meant to be in advance. For Sartre, no such completed definition comes before the person. We are not tools produced to match a sealed plan. That claim can sound like a motivational slogan. You can become absolutely anything. But Sartre is making a narrower point. He is not saying your body, your past, your circumstances, or the presence of other people simply disappear. Much of life is given without our consent. We enter conditions we did not select, carrying facts we cannot erase by making a bold choice. What is not given is a completed identity that interprets all those conditions for us. No prior design can take your situation and issue the final answer. This is who you are, this is what every choice must mean, and this is the purpose you were built to serve. That missing answer changes the weight of being a person. A tool can refer back to its design. It can be judged by whether it performs the task chosen for it. You and I cannot hand our whole existence back to a blueprint and say, "There, that explains me." We still inherit facts, limits, and histories, yet none of them arrives as a sealed manual for the self we must become. The paper knife has a design before it exists. A person exists without that protection. You feel this most clearly when a role falls away. The meeting ends. The uniform comes off. The people who needed something from you go home. For a moment, you're alone with no task to perform and no one handing you a line. It would be comforting if some finished identity then stepped forward from underneath it all. But no hidden script takes over. You can search inward, of course, You can notice your desires, fears, memories, and loyalties. They tell you a great deal. They still don't add up to a final recipe. Each one has to be interpreted through what you do. Even refusing to choose takes a place in your life. It becomes part of the person others meet, depend on, avoid, forgive, or remember. This is where an idea that sounded safely theoretical enters the kitchen, the office, and the quiet ride home. You still have to inhabit your habits. You still have to answer the message or leave it unanswered. You accept the promotion, stay in the relationship, keep the promise, or find a reason not to. None of these choices proves your identity once and for all. Yet each gives it a shape that wasn't there before. That's why digging for the final version of yourself can become an elegant form of delay. You wait to feel certain before acting, as if certainty were evidence that the correct self has finally been found. But the self isn't sitting inside you like a lost watch. It appears in the way you live through conditions that never complete the work on your behalf. Your past narrows some paths. Your body sets limits. Money, duty, luck, and other people all matter. Still, those facts don't live your response for you. The missing blueprint, therefore, doesn't leave you floating above consequence. It places you closer to it. Your role can explain what was expected today, but it cannot carry the whole answer to who you are. Once the role drops away, you remain responsible for what you keep doing without it. That exposure is easy to praise from a distance as freedom. Up close, it has weight. There is no finished inner recipe to obey, and no design you can present as a complete excuse. There is only this life, taking form through choices that never quite finish you, yet never leave you untouched. This can sound insulting when your life is already crowded with things you never chose. You didn't choose your body, the family you entered, the year you were born, or the money that was missing. You may have a job you can't simply leave, people who depend on you, and old decisions that still charge interest. Then a philosopher arrives and starts talking about freedom. The irritation is fair. A life is already furnished before the next decision begins. The body has needs and limits. History has placed some doors nearby and others far out of reach. Family can give love, duty, damage, or all three before breakfast. Work claims hours that cannot be used twice. Social position shapes how strangers read you, what risks you can afford, and which mistakes follow you longest. None of this disappears because someone says you are free. If Sartre required us to treat those facts as imaginary, he would be useless. Worse, he would turn philosophy into a polite way of blaming people for conditions they did not create. But his claim begins inside the situation, with its hard edges intact. Freedom does not mean standing above your circumstances, like a customer reviewing the menu. Often, there is no clean menu. There is a tired body, a rent payment, a promise you made years ago, and someone waiting for you to come home. These conditions can press on a life. They can wound it. They can close real paths and make other paths costly enough to feel almost closed. Your past also stays stubbornly present. A choice made at 20 may still shape the room you wake in at 40. Calling that real is not surrender. It is simple honesty. And yet the weight does not end there. Even within these limits, your response is not fully produced in advance. Circumstance explains a great deal, but it does not become a second person who acts in your place. That is why an unfinished self feels heavier than an inspiring slogan. You are not being offered endless options. You are left involved in what this limited life becomes. So the unsettling part of freedom is not that every door is open. It is that some responsibility survives among the doors already locked. How can that responsibility be real when so much of the room was furnished before you arrived? We often treat responsibility as a verdict. If you're responsible, then the whole thing must be your fault. You chose it, caused it, or could have prevented it. That idea leaves only two positions, total blame or total helplessness. Sartre is making a harder distinction. You don't choose every condition of your life. You don't select your body, your childhood, your century, or the choices other people make around you. Some limits arrive before you can name them. Others are forced on you later. Responsibility doesn't erase those facts. It begins after we admit them. His claim is that you still answer from inside what you were given. In existentialism is a humanism. Freedom doesn't mean having every option. It means your situation never completes your response for you. Even when your choices are narrow, you remain involved in how you inhabit the narrow space. Think of an inherited room. You didn't choose its size, the damaged floor, or the furniture blocking the door. It would be absurd to blame you for the room's history. Yet once you are standing there, you still have some relation to it. You may move one chair. You may refuse to pretend the damage is beautiful. You may sit still because every available move carries a cost. Even that stillness has a meaning within the life you're living. This is severe because it removes a clean excuse. We can't always say the situation is the whole story and disappear behind it. But severity isn't the same as accusation. Sartre's point is not that people deserve every wound, limit, or injustice they endure. A person can be harmed without having chosen the harm. Constraint is real. So is the person living under it. That is where responsibility survives. Consciousness is not a blank power floating above circumstance. It is implicated in the way circumstance is faced, interpreted, resisted, endured, or passed on. You are shaped by what happened, but you are never merely a container holding what happened. This leaves room for honest judgment about what was imposed, what remained possible, and what your response made of that narrow margin. So blame asks, who caused all of this? Sartrean responsibility asks something narrower and more demanding. Given that this is here, how am I involved in what follows? The inherited situation is not your fault. Your life within it is still in some measure yours. Freedom usually sounds cheerful. We put it on posters because options feel like open doors, and open doors seem better than walls. But Sartre gives the word a less comforting meaning. Freedom is not simply having many paths available. It is the fact that no path, role, or rule can answer entirely in your place. That difference follows you into ordinary life. You can become the reliable employee, the patient parent, the loyal friend, or the person who never causes trouble. Each role brings routines. It tells you when to arrive, what to say, and what others expect. A role can organize the day so well that you barely notice yourself inside it. Still, the role cannot live for you. It cannot decide how sincerely you perform it, what you ignore to preserve it, or what kind of person your repeated choices are producing. Even obedience contains a relation to the command. You may accept it, resent it, hide behind it, or convince yourself there was never any choice at all. The role can guide your actions. It cannot fully absorb the person carrying them out. This is where motivational talk about freedom starts to wear thin. More options can feel exciting. Answerability often does not. It means that even after you explain the pressures, duties, and limits around you, some part of the life remains attached to your response. The explanation may be fair, the limit may be severe, yet neither automatically completes the meaning of what you do next. You feel this most clearly in the quiet room after the day. The meetings are over, the errands are done. The bright phrases about courage and possibility have stopped helping. There is only the small, awkward fact that tomorrow's conduct will still be yours in some measure. No slogan fills in the blank. No title signs your name for you. That is why Sartrean freedom can feel heavy without being a punishment. It removes the comfort of believing that a perfect script exists somewhere, waiting to make you innocent of your own participation. You may have few choices, you may dislike every one of them, but having no painless choice is not always the same as having no relation to what follows. Freedom stops feeling inspirational at that point. It becomes the burden of being unable to hand your whole life over to the role, the rule, or the explanation. And once that burden settles in, our wish to feel completely innocent no longer looks mysterious. Part of us still wants the rule to choose first. We want a decision that arrives guaranteed, clean, and already justified. Then we could follow it without feeling that the result belongs quite so fully to us. If things went badly, the system chose. The role demanded it. The rule left no room. Our hands would seem clean. There's nothing strange about wanting that relief. When freedom feels heavy, innocence starts to look like shelter. You stare at the choice, compare the risks, and quietly hope some authority will settle it before you have to. A policy would do, a tradition, a job title, a family expectation, even a rigid routine. Anything that can say, this is simply what people in your position do. But the comfort doesn't come only from having fewer options. It comes from losing ownership. If the answer was fixed in advance, you wouldn't have to carry the choice as yours. You could act while feeling more like the instrument than the author. That is the innocence we crave. Not perfect goodness, but freedom from having to answer for a decision made without certainty. Sartre calls the strain of this situation anguish. In existentialism is a humanism. Anguish appears when we grasp what choosing actually costs. It isn't proof that you're weak, timid, or emotionally unfit for freedom. It's the sober feeling that no guarantee can step in and absorb the burden for you. You can gather facts. You can ask people you trust. You can follow a rule for good reasons. Yet even then, you must decide that these facts count, that this advice deserves weight, that this rule belongs here. The guarantee keeps slipping one step back. You still have some relation to what you accept as authority. That is why anguish can appear even in an ordinary evening, with no grand crisis in sight. You're looking at two possible lives on a quiet screen, wishing the correct one would glow. It doesn't. The awkward fact is that wanting innocence is deeply ordinary. We're asking for a world where action remains possible, but responsibility somehow disappears. So take that wish seriously for a moment. If every important move were written before you arrived, and following a preset plan could make you innocent of every outcome, what else would that fully scripted life remove? A complete script would settle more than where to live or whom to love. It would settle what each decision meant before you made it. Every page would carry its own instruction. Say this, refuse that, stay now, leave later. You might still perform the actions, but the answer would always arrive first. Deciding would shrink into following. That sounds like mercy. No more lying awake while two decent choices pull against each other. No more wondering whether you confused fear with caution or loyalty with habit. You could open the book, find the marked line, and move. Even regret would lose some of its bite. You did what was written. What else could anyone ask of you? Yet the missing burden is exactly what Sartre wants us to see. That preset plan wouldn't merely remove confusion. It would make us less answerable. If the correct act had already been fixed, your task would be closer to obedience than choice. You could point to the page when things went wrong. The book told me. The role required it. My life came with directions. That escape is tempting because responsibility is tiring in a way uncertainty alone can't explain. We don't only want better information, we sometimes want information so final that our part in choosing disappears. We want the comfort of action without the exposure of having authored it. But a human life never quite becomes that kind of script book. Advice can guide you. Duties can bind you. Facts can rule out foolish options. None of them turns you into a character whose meaning has been settled by someone outside the story. You still meet the advice, the duty, and the facts as the person who must respond. This is why Sartre ties anguish to freedom. Anguish isn't simply the fog around a difficult decision. More knowledge may clear some of that fog. It can't close the account completely. No final page arrives to prove that your response was the only possible one and therefore never truly yours. A guarantee would feel kind because it would lift answerability from your shoulders. It would also take something with it. You would gain certainty but lose the unsettling fact that your action counts as your answer. The missing instruction is the burden. It is also where freedom appears. Once you feel that burden, the urge to escape it stops looking like simple cowardice. Of course we reach for guarantees. We're tired. We want the choice to come with a receipt proving that we followed the correct instructions. We want a role, a rule, or a trusted voice to carry some of the weight. If certainty could remove our responsibility, why wouldn't we chase it? This happens in very ordinary moments. You stay in the job because responsible people don't walk away. You agree with the group because you're the easygoing one. You refuse an apology because you've decided you're simply not an emotional person. Each role gives you a ready-made line. It tells you what someone like you does next. For a moment, uncertainty becomes lighter. You don't have to stand there without a script. The role feels solid precisely when your own reasons feel difficult to defend. Roles aren't always traps. We need them to live together. Being a parent, a friend, a manager, or a citizen can shape real duties. The temptation begins when the role becomes an alibi. Instead of saying, "I chose this," we say, "I had no choice. This is just what my position required." The excuse does more than defend the action afterward. It tries to make the action feel as though it never belonged to us. It turns a choice into something that merely happened through us. That relief is partial, because the person using the excuse still has to keep using it. You have to repeat the role, protect it, and ignore the moments when another response becomes visible. The pretense takes work. That's the useful absurdity here. We may spend enormous effort proving that we had no freedom at all. Even our escape carries the mark of the freedom we're trying to avoid. None of this makes the escape wise. It can damage other people. It can keep us inside choices we're unwilling to own. But it does make the impulse human. We aren't fleeing because responsibility is imaginary. We flee because it is real, and because even a thin excuse can feel like shelter when uncertainty gets heavy. The role, the excuse, and the alibi offer a small vacation from authorship. They cannot cancel the burden. They can only help us pretend, for a while, that someone else is holding it. An excuse often arrives with suspiciously good timing. You haven't quite made the decision, yet the explanation is already waiting to soften it. You tell yourself the meeting forced your hand, the mood made patience impossible, or the role left you no choice. It sounds like a lie, but an ordinary lie is too simple a model for what is happening. Usually, lying means that one person knows a fact and hides it from someone else. I know I broke the glass. I tell you the cat did it. The truth stays on my side of the conversation, while I try to keep it from reaching yours. There are two people, one hidden fact, and a fairly clear line between them. Bad faith is stranger. The person hiding and the person being hidden from are the same person. Yet that doesn't mean there are two neat selves inside you, one holding the truth and another being fooled. Sartre's point in being and nothingness is more unsettling. You remain present to the condition you're trying to escape, even while you describe it falsely. That is why bad faith can't be reduced to hypocrisy. A hypocrite may perform kindness while privately planning something cruel. The performance is aimed at other people. Bad faith reaches into the way you treat your own situation. You don't merely conceal what happened, you arrange the meaning of what happened so that one part becomes enormous and another nearly disappears. Consider the excuse that arrives before the choice. I have to say yes because they expect it. Their expectation may be real. You notice it, feel its weight, and give it center stage. But you also know, in the ordinary practical sense, that you could refuse and face the consequences. That part is pushed into the dim corner. Nothing has been fully forgotten. Nothing needs to be locked in a secret room. The emphasis does the work. This is a falsified relation to yourself. You stay close enough to your freedom to manage the evidence against it. You know which detail needs enlarging, which option needs shrinking, and which description will make the result feel settled before you act. The oddity is almost comic. The excuse must borrow your intelligence to persuade you that you aren't choosing. So if no hidden second self is required, and the relevant facts never entirely leave the room, how does the distortion hold together? It holds together because a partial truth can do the work of a complete excuse. You don't have to invent a false fact. You only have to give one true fact all the light. The rest stays in shadow, still present but stripped of authority. Like a photograph cropped just tightly enough. Nothing inside the frame is fake. The distortion lives in what the frame excludes. Suppose you stay in a job you dislike. You tell yourself that rent is due, other people depend on you, and leaving would carry real costs. All of that may be true, but those limits become deceptive when you treat them as proof that no choice exists at all. The facts set the price of leaving. They don't make leaving impossible. When freedom hurts, what is given can become an alibi. We can reverse the move just as easily. You make a promise, accept a duty, or cause harm. Then you insist that you're always free to become someone different. Again, there is truth in it. Your past doesn't turn you into a fixed object, yet freedom becomes an excuse when you use it to float above what you've done. When the given feels binding, possibility can become an alibi too. So the distortion isn't built from pure fantasy. It is built from selective emphasis. One side of your condition gets promoted until it seems to be the whole story. You become nothing but your limits when responsibility feels frightening, or you become nothing but possibility when your history asks something of you. In either case, one truth is recruited to silence another. Sartre calls this bad faith. It is stranger than ordinary lying because you are involved on both sides of the maneuver. You aren't simply fooled by a story arriving from elsewhere. You help arrange the lighting. You sense enough of what has been pushed aside to keep pushing it aside. That is why the performance needs maintenance. A careless word, a new option, or one honest pause can expose the missing part. You can test this model in daily life without turning every excuse into a moral crisis. Listen for sentences that make one part of your situation sound total. I had no choice. That's just who I am. My past means nothing. Each may contain something true. The warning sign is the sudden disappearance of everything else. Bad faith doesn't always replace truth with fiction. More often, it uses a narrow truth as a shield against the wider one. If bad faith really worked, the relief would last. You would choose the excuse, settle into the role, and finally stop feeling the strain. Yet the relief keeps leaking. The explanation that felt airtight on Monday sounds thin by Friday. The identity that protected you in one conversation feels strangely cramped in the next. This happens because you can never become fully identical with the shelter you choose. You may say, "I'm only doing my job," and mean it for a while. You may decide that you're simply the dependable one, the difficult one, the person who never needs anyone, or the person who can't change. A role can organize your life. An excuse can quiet the noise. A fantasy can make a painful choice seem unnecessary. But some remainder keeps moving underneath it. The mask fits until your face changes expression, then it slips. You notice an option you weren't supposed to have. You feel relief when a duty is cancelled, though you claimed the duty defined you. You resent being treated according to the role you insisted was fixed. Even the excuse begins to require small repairs. You repeat it more firmly. You avoid one person who might challenge it. You collect details that support it and ignore those that don't. This isn't proof that you chose the wrong excuse. It isn't a failed first attempt that a better story could permanently fix. The instability belongs to the evasion itself. You're still present inside the act of trying to disappear from responsibility. The person fleeing is also the person arranging the escape, checking whether it still works, and noticing every crack in the wall. That is why bad faith can soothe without resolving. It gives you temporary distance from an uncomfortable freedom, but it can't remove the one who is free. The role never quite closes around you. The excuse never becomes the whole situation. Something remains outside the neat account, and you know enough about that remainder to keep defending against it. Sartre makes this easier to see by leaving the language of masks and shelters behind. He turns to an ordinary life we can watch, a waiter at work. Nothing grand happens. That is precisely why the example is so uncomfortable. The evasion appears in gestures so familiar that at first they may look like nothing more than someone doing a job. You can see him crossing the dining room with a little too much speed. His steps are quick, yet carefully controlled. The tray stays level. His face holds the exact amount of welcome the room expects. When a customer speaks, he leans in with practiced attention. When he answers, his politeness arrives polished and ready. None of this is strange by itself. Service work requires skill, timing, patience, and a public manner. We all adjust how we speak when a job puts us in front of other people. The oddness appears in the extra degree. Each movement is just a touch too exact. Each response seems finished before the customer has fully asked. He doesn't merely move like a waiter. He seems to present the waiter with every step. That small excess is what makes Sartre linger over the scene in Being and Nothingness. The performance is recognizable because it's only a little too complete. If it were wild or clumsy, we could dismiss it as comedy. Instead, it looks almost normal. You may have seen the same thing in a hotel lobby, a sales meeting, or an office where someone's professional voice survives even after the door closes. There's a quiet human absurdity in it. The waiter carries a plate as if the fate of order itself depends on the angle of his wrist. Yet Sartre isn't mocking the work, the manners, or the effort it takes to do the job well. Performance isn't automatically false. A role can be useful, demanding, and honestly chosen. The trouble appears when the role is asked to do more than organize behavior. It begins to settle the person. The waiter acts as though enough precision might make him fully identical with his function, leaving no loose edge, no private distance, no possibility beyond what the room can see. He is trying to harden into the public image of a waiter. That's why the example matters outside the cafe. We know the temptation to make ourselves easier to define. The reliable employee, the calm parent, the clever friend, the person who never needs help. A public image can simplify a crowded life, and other people often reward us for keeping it steady. But when the performance becomes visibly complete, what are we asking the role to prove about who we are? Doing your job well isn't the problem. You can learn the routine, wear the uniform, remember the details, and serve people with real care. Competence doesn't become bad faith merely because it involves a role. We need roles. They let strangers cooperate without turning every coffee order into an identity crisis. The trouble starts when performance makes a larger claim. A person no longer says, "This is what I do here." He acts as if the function contains his whole being. The uniform stops being clothing for a task. It becomes shelter from every possibility that won't fit beneath it. This is the distinction Sartre's waiter helps us see. The waiter isn't condemned for moving with professional precision. Sartre focuses on how the performance seems too complete, as though the man were trying to coincide with being a waiter in the way a cup coincides with being a cup. A cup cannot step back from its function. A person can. That gap matters. You can perform a role and still know that you exceed it. You have a history the role doesn't explain, choices it cannot make for you, and possibilities it cannot close. Even while doing the job, you remain capable of questioning it, leaving it, resenting it, loving it, or doing it differently tomorrow. Over-identification tries to erase that freedom. It says, "I'm only a waiter, only a manager, only the dependable one." The word "only" offers relief because it shrinks a complicated person into a finished definition. Once the label feels final, uncertainty can be treated like a clerical error. Stay inside the assigned lines, and perhaps you won't have to decide who else you might become. That is a clear form of bad faith. The person treats a practical function as if it were a fixed nature, something settled that determines what he is. He borrows the solidity of a thing. The role then does more than guide his conduct. It excuses him from facing the open, unfinished character of his life. So professionalism and bad faith are not the same. One serves the situation, the other hides inside it. You may carry the tray carefully, answer the email promptly, or lead the meeting well. None of that requires pretending the task has completed you. A role can organize what you do without being allowed to decide all that you are. That waiter feels familiar because most of us have a role that earns us recognition. You may be the capable one at work, the expert in the group, or the reliable person who never lets anyone down. Perhaps you've become known as the failure instead. Even a painful label can feel strangely secure when everyone agrees it belongs to you. Recognition is useful. It tells us that our effort has been seen. Yet it can also offer a quiet bargain. Keep performing this part, and you won't have to face everything in you that remains unsettled. The title on your email signature starts as a description of your work. Then, almost without notice, it begins answering personal questions it was never built to answer. That bargain can feel like safety, which is why it works. The same thing can happen with a diagnosis, a reputation, or a public niche. Each can name something real. Each can help other people understand you. The trouble begins when the label stops describing one part of your life and starts acting like the final explanation for the person living it. This isn't an attack on work, skill, or competence. Doing something well can be a source of pride. Training matters. Keeping your word matters. Sartre's waiter doesn't trouble us because he cares about his job. He troubles us because we recognize the temptation to make a role do more than any role can do. We ask it to settle who we are. That temptation appears in small moments. You're tired, but the reliable one can't cancel. You're uncertain, but the expert can't admit confusion. You want to try something new, but the successful one has a reputation to protect. The role that once helped you move through the world now sets the limits of what you're allowed to feel, say, or attempt. And this can be intimate enough that nobody else notices. From the outside, you may simply look consistent. Inside, the label has quietly replaced the harder work of answering as a person in this situation today. Once you recognize that pattern, another one comes into view. Some of us hide by becoming too identical with a decision already made. Others hide by keeping the decision just out of reach. The costumes look different, but both offer relief from having to answer for a life that remains unfinished. You may know this quieter form of hiding. A choice is sitting right in front of you, yet you keep its meaning slightly blurred. You don't say yes, you don't say no. You let the moment hover, because once it has a clear meaning, you'll have to answer for what you do with it. In Being and Nothingness, Jean-Paul Sartre gives an example from a date. One person places a hand on the other person's hand. The hand is not pulled away, but the gesture is not openly accepted either. It is simply left there, almost as if it were no longer part of the decision. The physical contact is obvious. Its meaning is held at a careful distance. It would be easy to turn this into gossip about someone leading another person on. That misses the idea. Sartre isn't handing out dating advice, and the point doesn't depend on blaming either person. The scene deserves more care than that. It shows a structure we can all enter when a moment asks for a response before we're ready to own one. Nothing has been denied. The hand is still there. The date is still happening. Each person can feel that the gesture may carry desire, permission, discomfort, hope, or some mixture that has not yet found a name. Yet by treating the hand as a mere object resting in another hand, the person can avoid deciding what the gesture means for them. This is different from hiding inside a role. There, you make yourself too fixed. I am this kind of person, so my choice is already settled. Here, you make the situation too loose. You keep every meaning possible so none can quite claim you. One form of bad faith hardens the answer too soon. This one keeps the answer soft enough to escape your grip. And we do this far beyond dates. We leave the message unanswered, keep the invitation maybe, or continue a friendship whose terms no one will name. Sometimes the hesitation is honest, we truly need time, but sometimes delay becomes shelter. As long as the meaning stays unsettled, we can tell ourselves that no choice has been made. But if keeping a moment unresolved already shapes another person's hopes, plans, or freedom, have we really avoided choosing? The comfort of maybe is that it seems to leave no fingerprints. You haven't said yes, you haven't said no. You've simply allowed the conversation to remain in mid-air, where nobody can accuse you of landing in the wrong place. And that sounds neutral, but it may already be doing a job. Ambiguity can delay the moment when you must face what your behavior means. The words stay unfinished, so your part in the situation can feel unfinished too. Vagueness becomes a kind of grammatical shelter. The key distinction is between uncertainty and suspended grammar. Honest uncertainty says, I don't know yet, and I know that affects you. Suspended grammar avoids even that much clarity. It relies on phrases that never quite become claims. We'll see. Things are complicated. I'm not ready to label it. Each phrase may be true. Yet truth can still be used as cover when it keeps the meaning permanently out of reach. This is why delay can become an alibi. You point to the absence of a clear statement as proof that nothing definite has happened. No promise was made, no refusal was given. Technically, the case appears spotless. Meanwhile, the other person keeps waiting, interpreting, and arranging a life around the space you've preserved. The delay is not empty time. It quietly assigns the cost of uncertainty to someone else, while letting you keep the comfort of appearing undecided. There's a quiet irony here. Vagueness can feel merciful because it buys us time from ourselves. We may call it kindness, patience, or caution. Sometimes it is. But when the same fog always protects us from implication, its purpose starts to show. Bad faith doesn't always arrive with a rigid declaration. It can be soft, polite, and endlessly reasonable. It may speak in a gentle tone. It may apologize for being confused. Its shelter comes from making every moment provisional, even when a meaning is already taking shape through repeated choices. That doesn't make all indecision dishonest. Some situations are unclear, and forcing an answer would only replace uncertainty with performance. The warning sign is narrower. Delay becomes evasive when its main benefit is relief from having to answer for what is already happening. You can leave the sentence unfinished. You cannot make the unfinished sentence consequence-free. Set the two scenes beside each other. In one, a waiter moves with almost comic precision. His voice, posture, and gestures say that he is nothing beyond the job. In the other, a woman on a date treats each intimate gesture as if it carries no settled meaning at all. One makes himself too defined, the other keeps the moment undefined. The two scenes move in opposite directions, but they offer the same relief. You can rush toward a fixed identity, or you can hold meaning at a distance. Either way, you avoid the burden of answering for a choice before any final guarantee arrives. In the first move, you tell yourself the role did it. The rules seem to explain every action, so no decision appears to belong to you. In the second, you insist that no choice has happened yet. The moment stays open, the gesture stays ambiguous, and responsibility can wait. You escape by becoming definite too quickly, or by refusing a meaning that is already taking shape. Bad faith is not tied to one mood or personality. It can look stiff and theatrical. It can also look careful, hesitant, and perfectly sensible. The surface changes. The relief does not. You can see it in ordinary life. Someone says, "I'm just doing my job," as if the role erased the person carrying it out. Someone else keeps a relationship, promise, or decision permanently unnamed, as if avoiding the label also avoided the effects. One hides inside a finished description. The other hides inside an unfinished one. Neither person needs to be lying in the usual sense. They may believe every word they say. The escape works because it rearranges how the situation appears. Responsibility starts to look either impossible or premature. In both cases, the person gets distance from the fact that no rule, role, feeling, or perfect explanation can answer in their place. So bad faith stops looking like a flaw owned by rigid people or indecisive people. It becomes a move available to all of us. We can make ourselves seem completely settled, or keep ourselves conveniently unsettled. To see why both moves work, we need to name the two sides of a human life, that each one bends out of shape. You never make a choice from nowhere. By the time you decide what to do next, much of the scene has already been set. You have a body with limits, a past you remember unevenly, and a life that other people have already entered. Sartre calls this given side of life facticity. The word sounds colder than the thing itself. Facticity is your age when you apply for the job. It is the family history that follows you into an argument, even when nobody mentions it. It is the promise you made on Tuesday, which remains inconveniently real on Friday. It is a body already tired when the evening begins. Place belongs here too. So do history, commitments, and circumstances already underway. You wake in one city rather than every possible city. You speak certain languages. Your bank account contains an actual number, with no interest in your preferred self-image. People know you through what you have done before. A reputation may be unfair or incomplete, but it can still affect which doors open. Even the calendar has already begun making demands. We often treat these facts as background noise around the important part, which seems to be the choosing self. That is too neat. These facts aren't decorations around freedom. They are the floor where freedom has to stand. A choice made while exhausted isn't the same event as that choice made after rest. A promise already given changes what leaving costs. A past action can narrow the next move without making it impossible. This is why wishing alone has such limited authority. You may refuse an old label, yet still face the people who use it. You may regret a decision, yet regret doesn't remove its effects. You may want the room of your life to be empty so you can arrange it from scratch. It isn't empty. The furniture is here. Some of it was chosen by you, some by others, and some arrived before you knew there was a room. None of this means that a life is fixed. Facticity is not a sentence handed down by fate. It simply names what is already there and cannot be dismissed by changing the story in your head. Before the next choice begins, then, what is already in the room with you? We often talk about the past as if it were a framed photograph. It hangs behind us, visible but harmless, while the present gets on with business. That image is comforting. It is also false. The past enters the meeting, the apology, the promise, and the decision you keep delaying. It changes what your words mean before anyone decides whether to believe them. Suppose you once broke a promise to someone you love. Today, you can make a new promise. You are free to speak, and they are free to listen. But the old promise is present in the new one. It gives your words a weight they would not carry otherwise. Saying that isn't the same as saying you must fail again. It means your choice begins in a situation that already has a shape. The same is true of a success, a loss, a family history, or a mistake. Each can narrow what seems possible. Each can make one choice costly and another tempting. A past humiliation may make silence feel safer during an argument. Years of loyalty may make leaving a job feel like betrayal. The past doesn't issue commands, yet it alters the price and meaning of what you do now. This is why moving on can become a strange slogan. Sometimes it means refusing to let one event own the rest of your life. Fair enough. Sometimes it means pretending the event has no claim on the present at all. That version asks you to become free by acting as if facts were optional. They aren't. The philosophical word for these given facts is facticity. It includes what has happened, what exists now, and what you must choose in relation to. Facticity is pressure because no decision starts from nowhere. Even rebellion depends on something to rebel against. Even forgiveness answers an injury. Even beginning again carries the knowledge of what ended. Still, pressure is not a complete explanation. Your history can help us understand why a choice feels difficult without proving that only one choice remains. A shadow falls across the road, but it does not steer the car. You still turn the wheel, with less innocence perhaps, and with more responsibility. So the past cannot be decoration, because every present declaration meets what is already there. But it cannot be destiny either, because what is already there does not finish the declaration for you. The facts of your life can become a hiding place. A label, an old mistake, a family role, or a hard circumstance may explain something real about you. Then one small word turns that fact into a shelter. Only. I'm only the quiet one. I'm only someone who never finishes things. I'm only what happened to me. I'm only a person with this kind of job, this kind of education, this kind of past. The details may be accurate, the finality isn't. This is where facticity can become bad faith. A real condition gets treated as a complete identity. Your history stops being part of the argument and becomes the sentence that ends it. Nothing more can be asked, nothing more needs an answer. The case appears closed. And there's relief in that. Saying, I am this, can feel heavy. Saying, I am only this, can feel strangely peaceful. The word only cancels the burden of response. If the label tells the whole story, then you no longer have to decide how you'll live with it. You don't have to risk acting beyond the role. You don't have to face the awkward fact that even a limited choice is still a choice. You can hear this happen in ordinary conversations. Someone says, "That's just how I am," after hurting the same person again. Someone points to a past failure as proof that another attempt would be dishonest. Someone uses a job title as if it had already decided what they're allowed to care about. The fact may deserve respect, but it has quietly been promoted into a verdict. That promotion is the alibi. It turns explanation into exemption. It takes something that influences your answer and claims there is no answer left to give. Realism slides into excuse so smoothly that it can sound mature. You tell yourself you're accepting reality, while using one part of reality to avoid your part in what comes next. This doesn't make limits imaginary. It means a limit can be real without being the whole account of a person. The emotional clue is the relief. When only makes every demand disappear, listen closely. A condition has hardened into an identity, and that identity is now doing the work of refusal. Yet the case never stays closed as neatly as we want. Something within us keeps disturbing the verdict, refusing to remain equal to the label, the history, or the circumstance that claimed to finish the argument. A label can fit you and still leave something out. You can be a parent or an employee. You can be a citizen, a failure, or the reliable one. Each name can describe a real part of your life. Some carry duties you can't simply walk away from, yet none can hold everything happening within you. There is always a remainder, some small spill beyond the edge. You notice it in ordinary moments. The quiet employee wants to speak during the meeting. The dependable friend feels tired of being available. The person known for one mistake makes a different choice when nobody expects it. These moments don't prove that the label was false. They show that a description can be accurate without being complete. Consciousness is strange in this precise way. It can notice the role it occupies. You don't merely perform a role, you can see yourself performing it. You can feel its demands, judge its limits, resist parts of it, or decide to meet it differently. The role is present, but awareness never becomes exactly the same thing as the role. It stands close enough to recognize it. This doesn't mean there is a hidden perfect person floating somewhere behind your daily life. Nothing mystical is required. The remainder is simply your ability to relate to what has already been given. Your past happened. Your responsibilities are real. Other people may have good reasons for using the names they use, but you're never only the finished object of those facts. You are also the one encountering them now. That difference is easy to miss because labels are efficient. They help families, workplaces, and institutions know what to expect. They also help us avoid the awkward work of meeting someone again. Once a person has been filed under difficult, gifted, selfish, broken, or successful, every new act gets read through the old folder. Even praise can become a small prison. The capable one isn't allowed to falter. The funny one isn't allowed to be quiet. So exceeding a label doesn't mean escaping every condition or inventing yourself from nothing. It means no condition can fully replace the living awareness that meets it. Something remains able to notice, answer, refuse, continue, or surprise. The label stays pinned to the life, but the life keeps spilling past its edges. If you can see the name, feel its weight, and to decide how you will meet it, can that name ever be the whole of you? We often hear the word transcendence and expect incense, clouds, or some glowing escape from ordinary life. Sartre means something far more grounded. Transcendence is your ability to reach beyond what is already given by aiming at a possibility. That sounds grand until you notice how ordinary it is. You're sitting in a job you dislike, but you can apply elsewhere. You've made a promise, and tomorrow you can keep it or break it. You're known as impatient, yet in the next argument you can pause. Each possibility reaches beyond the present facts. None requires you to float above those facts. You always begin from a situation. You have a body, a history, limited time, other people, and choices already made. Money may be short. An illness may close options. A duty may be yours whether you welcome it or not. Some doors are open, others are locked, and pretending otherwise won't produce a key. Transcendence isn't the claim that you can become absolutely anything if you want it badly enough. That's philosophy turned into an expensive gym poster. The claim is smaller and more demanding. No current description uses you up. A failed exam may describe what happened. It doesn't dictate every exam after it. Being shy may describe a familiar pattern. It doesn't choose every word you'll say tonight. Even a firm limit leaves some room in how you understand it, respond to it, or shape your next move. That room may be narrow, but narrow isn't the same as non-exist. This is why possibility matters. A person is never exhausted by the description that fits today. We make plans, avoid outcomes, rehearse conversations, delay decisions, and commit ourselves to things that may fail. The future affects the present because we act in light of it. Possibility isn't a mystical substance. It's built into choosing. That gives Sartre an argument against determinism without giving us fantasy. Your past influences you. Your circumstances narrow the field. Other people can block you, judge you, or assign you a place. Habit can make one response far easier than another. Still, those facts don't write a complete script for your next act. A life can lean beyond its label while keeping both feet on the ground. Transcendence names that lean. It doesn't erase the ground, and the ground doesn't cancel the lean. Either your circumstances define you, or you can become anything you choose. It sounds clean. It also gives you two bad ways to understand a human life. Let circumstances rule alone, and the person slowly turns into a thing. You become your history, your job, your family role, your diagnosis, your bank balance, or the mistake everyone remembers. These facts may carry enormous weight. Some cannot be changed at all. But when they are treated as the whole of you, every choice starts to look like the automatic result of something already settled. Responsibility disappears into cause and effect. So does surprise. You can feel this account harden during an ordinary argument. Someone says, "That's just how I am." The sentence may describe a real pattern, yet it can also close the door before the next response has happened. A fact becomes a verdict. The past stops influencing the present and begins impersonating its ruler. Now let possibility rule alone. You become a fantasy with excellent plans and no address. Limits are treated as negative thinking. Promises float free of time, money, bodies, duties, and other people. You can declare a new direction every morning, while refusing the conditions that any actual change must pass through. This version feels freeing because nothing gets to define you. But if nothing has any claim on you, your choices lose their shape. Saying you could do anything means very little until you choose among real options and accept what that choice costs. Freedom without a situation is just a private story. So neither side can rule alone. The given without possibility hardens into determinism. Possibility without the given evaporates into denial. Each begins with something true, then makes it false by asking it to explain the whole person. That is why choosing a favorite half won't solve the problem. We don't live as facts on Monday and freedom on Tuesday. Every choice coordinates both at once. You answer from somewhere, with a history you did not fully choose, toward an act that is not fully dictated. When that coordination fails, the failure rarely looks philosophical. It sounds reasonable. I had no choice. None of this applies to me. One hides inside what is already given. The other escapes into what might be possible. Both offer relief, and both leave your actual life unattended. I am just this can feel merciful. This is just who I am. This is my personality type. This is my role in the family. This is what my past made me. The word just does a surprising amount of work. It turns a description into a final sentence, then lets you stop answering for anything beyond it. Some of these descriptions may be accurate. You may be shy in crowded rooms. You may have spent years being the responsible one. Your past may have shaped how quickly you trust, how you handle conflict, or what you expect from people. Sartre calls this given side of life our facticity. It includes the facts we did not freely choose and cannot simply wish away. The excuse begins when a fact becomes a destiny. I've avoided conflict before. Quietly becomes, I'm someone who cannot speak up. I grew up around chaos, becomes, stable relationships aren't for people like me. I'm the reliable one, becomes, I can never disappoint anyone. A real condition has been promoted into a complete identity. That promotion brings relief. If the label tells the whole story, then the answer is already written. You don't have to face the awkward gap between what has shaped you and what you'll do now. The personality test has spoken. The family role has spoken. The old mistake has spoken. Apparently, everyone can go home. This doesn't mean limits are imaginary. Your history has weight. Your body, money, duties, losses, and place in the world affect what is possible. Freedom isn't magic. But a condition can shape your choice without making the choice for you. Saying, "This is part of my situation," is realism. Saying, "Therefore, this is all I can be," is surrender dressed as realism. There is an opposite excuse, too. It claims that nothing about us binds us at all. It sounds bold and liberating, yet it distorts freedom from the other direction. We'll leave that alibi where it is for now. The one in front of us is quieter and probably more familiar. Listen for the moment a plain fact acquires the word only. I am only the shy one, only the provider, only the person who failed, only what happened to me. The label may describe where you are standing, but when did it earn the right to decide what you do from there? The brighter excuse sounds much better. Nothing about me binds me. I can leave the old life behind without carrying any of it forward. My history is just a story. My promises belonged to an earlier version of me. The consequences will sort themselves out. With enough courage, I can step outside the whole arrangement and start clean. It has the shine of freedom, plus the convenient feature of owing nobody an explanation. You can hear its appeal in the language of reinvention. Quit the job, leave the relationship, move somewhere new, delete the account, become someone nobody recognizes. Any of those choices may be honest. The trouble begins when change gets sold as a kind of magic eraser. Then freedom means acting as if the life already lived has left no marks, made no claims, and placed nothing in your hands. Sartre has a word for the part this fantasy removes: facticity. It means the facts already present in your situation. You were born at a certain time, into a certain body and world. You've made choices. Other people have trusted you. Some doors are open, others are gone, and a few can only be reached by dealing with what stands here now. These facts don't write your future for you. They do, however, give your freedom somewhere real to happen. This matters because Sartre is often mistaken for a salesman of limitless self-creation. Just choose, just declare, just become. But freedom doesn't float above the given like a spotless balloon. It acts within a situation, and every act begins from somewhere. Even leaving has a point of departure. Even starting over involves a person who remembers, a world that responds, and consequences that don't vanish because the new haircut is excellent. Denying facticity is another escape from freedom, not its purest form. It turns possibility into an alibi. If nothing binds me, then I never have to ask what my choices are doing to the people, promises, and conditions already here. That can feel wonderfully light for a while, yet a self cannot slip cleanly out of life while life still clings to it. Real possibility doesn't require you to worship the past. It asks you to change without pretending you arrived from nowhere. False freedom wants a blank page. Actual freedom has to write on the page already marked. We rarely stick to one excuse for long. We use the excuse that works today. When a duty feels heavy, you may say, "This is just who I am. I've always been this way." The past becomes a locked door. Then, when that same past brings an uncomfortable consequence, the story changes. That was yesterday. It has nothing to do with who I am now. Suddenly, the door was never there. These claims sound like opposites. One says you are bound by what has happened. The other says nothing that happened can bind you. Yet both can lower the same burden. Both can help you avoid answering for what you choose now. You can see the switch in ordinary life. Someone misses an important deadline and says they've never been an organized person. Their history becomes destiny. A week later, they make a promise based on a burst of motivation. When reminded of the last failure, they dismiss it as irrelevant. Their history becomes dust. The past is solid when it excuses inaction and weightless when it demands care. We do this in arguments too. "You know I shut down when I'm angry" can make a reaction sound automatic. But when the other person remembers the cruel thing we said, we may answer, "I was angry. That wasn't really me." First, the mood controls us. Then, the mood has no claim on us. Either way, responsibility keeps getting moved just out of reach. This is why bad faith isn't one frozen pose. It's a switching system. We move between "I am only this" and "nothing about me binds me." We don't always keep one lie. We keep whichever lie softens the next moment. The excuse changes clothes, but it keeps doing the same job. That gives you a useful way to catch it. Don't ask only whether the story sounds fixed or free. Watch when it changes, and notice what burden disappears. The past may harden when change carries a cost, then vanish when care or repair carries one. Once you see the movement, the two excuses stop looking like separate personality types. They become one flexible escape, used by the same person, sometimes within a single conversation. And because these stories are often told in front of someone else, relief soon depends on which version of us their eyes will accept. You know the instant when someone looks at you and your whole body becomes awkwardly public. A second ago, you were simply speaking, laughing, or reaching for a glass. Then you notice their eyes. Suddenly, you're also watching yourself from where they stand. That shift is easy to mistake for ordinary embarrassment. But embarrassment may pass while something stranger remains. You no longer feel like a person whose meaning is still being made. You feel like a thing already seen and judged. The nervous one, the clever one, the difficult one, the dependable one. Sartre called this encounter the look. Another person doesn't need to insult you or even speak. Their presence reveals that you exist for them in a form you cannot fully control. You have your intentions, doubts, and unfinished reasons. They see your expression, your action, your place in the room. From the outside, all that movement can harden into a single fact. You arrive late, and someone glances at the clock. Perhaps you had a good reason. Perhaps you nearly turned back to help someone. None of that is visible yet. In their eyes, you are simply late. For one sharp moment, their version of you feels more solid than everything you know privately. This is why fixed roles can bring relief even when they shrink us. Private intention is slippery. You can promise yourself that you're brave, generous, or changing, then doubt it before breakfast. But when other people treat you as the calm one or the failure, the identity gains weight. It has witnesses. It seems to exist outside your own uncertain account. There's an uncomfortable comfort in that. It can feel oddly useful. If they have already decided what you are, you no longer have to hold every possibility open. You can step into the role they recognize. Even a painful identity may feel safer than the exposed freedom of not knowing how you will appear next. The gaze turns you outward, toward a version of yourself that seems finished because someone else can see it. Shame may arrive there, but so can relief. The role offers shelter from the wobble of private intention. If another person's eyes can make an identity feel tangible, why wouldn't we sometimes prefer their fixed version of us? Shame is strange because it doesn't stay inside us. You can feel it in a meeting, at a family table, or during one awkward pause. Suddenly, you're aware of yourself as something visible. Your reasons and doubts remain hidden. Other people see someone they can describe, judge, and remember. That exposure makes stable roles tempting. If you're going to be fixed in someone's mind, it may seem better to help choose the label. The reliable one, the clever one, the difficult one, the good parent, the serious professional. A public identity gives shape to the version of you that others can hold. This isn't just a private search for confidence. It's also a response to being seen from the outside. Shame shows us that another person can turn our unfinished experience into an object with clear features. We can't fully control that act. A role offers a bargain. If I must become something in your eyes, let me become something familiar enough to manage. That bargain can feel like mercy and threat at once. The mercy is practical. A known identity gives you lines to speak, standards to meet, and reactions you can expect. At work, you know how the competent person behaves. With friends, you know how the funny person repairs a silence. The role reduces surprise. Other people know where to place you, and you know what they expect. The threat is that this shelter depends on accepting the fixity that frightened you. You begin treating the role as if it contains you. Then every action must protect it. The competent person can't admit confusion. The funny person can't stay sad for long. The good parent can't confess resentment without fearing that the whole identity may collapse. This is where social identity joins the machinery of bad faith. The role doesn't end objectification. It makes objectification easier to live with by giving it a respectable name. You cooperate with a fixed image because carrying it feels safer than facing how little any image can contain. Shame helps explain why a public identity can grip us so tightly. We don't choose roles only because they express something private. We also use them to survive the unsettling fact that other people will see us as something. The role turns exposure into a position we can occupy. It offers shelter, but that shelter is built from the same fixed gaze that made us seek cover. You've seen this happen in a meeting. One person enters as the expert, the peacemaker, or the difficult one, and everyone settles. They know which jokes to make. They know whose opinion will carry weight. They even know which disagreement to expect. The role calms the room because it makes the person legible in advance. Nobody has to face the full uncertainty of who might appear today. That can feel merciful. The role doesn't only spare you from deciding who to be each moment, it also spares everyone else from having to revise their picture of you. If you're always dependable, they can rely on you without asking what it costs. If you're always cheerful, they can enjoy your company without noticing your silence. Your role becomes a quiet agreement. You'll remain recognizable and they'll know how to respond. This is why public identity can feel like peace even when it narrows the truth. A stable label reduces friction. The family knows who handles the crisis. The office knows who stays late. The friend group knows who keeps things light. You may feel trapped by that position, yet stepping outside it creates an awkward pause. People look surprised. The room loses its map. Suddenly your freedom feels like a problem everyone must solve. So the mercy is real. A role can protect relationships from constant uncertainty. It can help people coordinate, trust, and move through ordinary life. But the bargain has a price. To keep the peace, a living person gets treated like a settled fact. A generous act becomes proof that you're the generous one. One failure becomes evidence that you were careless all along. The role starts collecting moments and using them as a verdict. We often cooperate because being fixed can seem kinder than being unpredictable. You don't want to disappoint people, confuse them, or force every relationship back into negotiation. Yet the version of you that keeps the room calm can become smaller with every performance. What began as shelter turns into an obligation to remain familiar. You gain relief from both sides, less inner uncertainty, less social friction, and then you notice what the relief requires. Everyone gets to keep a stable version of you while you carry the strain of staying inside it. Honesty can no longer mean revealing some perfect person hidden behind the role. It begins with admitting that no public version can finish the account. This is where a familiar promise starts to fail us. We're told authenticity means digging beneath the roles, expectations, and compromises until we find the person who was there all along. It sounds hopeful. It also sounds wonderfully convenient. Somewhere under the mess, a finished version of you is waiting to be recovered, complete with clear values and a reliable sense of direction. But if no finished nature exists underneath your choices, there is no original self to uncover. Sartre's starting claim removes that comfort. You exist first, then become someone through what you do. So the hidden person you hope will rescue you from uncertainty is another blueprint, only moved inside. The authority no longer comes from society or fate. It comes from an imagined inner original that supposedly knows who you must be. That is a little disappointing. Finding something sounds easier than taking responsibility for making it. Discovery gives you instructions. Creation leaves you answerable for the result. You can't point inward and say, "I had no choice. This is simply who I am." The rescue fantasy dissolves, and your choices are standing there without a costume. Even our private sense of identity can become a polite way to avoid the awkward fact that we are still choosing what our familiar patterns will mean. This doesn't mean expression is false, or that conformity is fine. Those aren't the two sides that matter here. The sharper conflict is honesty versus alibi. You may speak openly, dress differently, leave the expected path, and still use identity as an excuse. I'm just an ambitious person. I'm not someone who stays. I've always been bad at closeness. Each statement may describe a pattern. None of them turns the pattern into a law. Honesty begins when description stops pretending to be destiny. It means admitting that the person speaking today was shaped by earlier choices and is still being shaped by this one. That doesn't give you total control. Your body, history, duties and circumstances are real limits, yet limits don't arrive with a complete set of instructions for who you must become inside them. So authenticity can't be the soft relief of locating a hidden original and finally obeying it. It has to ask something less comforting. Can you describe who you have been without using that description to escape responsibility for who you are becoming? A more honest answer begins with two facts that don't fit neatly together. Some parts of your life were given to you. Other parts still depend on what you do. You can't erase either side without lying. Sartre's account of authenticity helps because it refuses two easy escapes. The first says, "This is simply who I am." Your past, your role, or your circumstances become a complete excuse. The second says, "I can be anything." Freedom becomes a fantasy with no body, history, promises, bills, or consequences. Both escapes remove responsibility. They just hide it in opposite places. Sartre uses the word facticity for what is already there. You were born at a certain time, into conditions you didn't choose. You have a body, a past, relationships, limits, and decisions already made. These facts shape the field in which you act. They don't vanish because you dislike them. A missed deadline remains missed. A promise still makes a claim on you. An illness, debt, or duty can narrow your options in ways positive thinking can't undo. But facticity is not a final definition. A fact about you does not contain its own command. Losing a job may limit what you can afford. It doesn't decide what the loss means, what you'll attempt next, or how you'll treat the people around you. Freedom lives in that unfinished part. It is not the power to remove every limit. It is the burden of answering from within limits. Authenticity, then, is the discipline of holding both sides at once. You tell the truth about what has been given without treating it as your complete definition. You admit your freedom without pretending you invented the ground beneath your feet. Neither side gets to serve as a total alibi. This isn't a cure, and it isn't worship of spontaneity. The impulse of the moment can be another hiding place. Nor is authenticity a warm revelation in which every choice suddenly feels natural. Often the honest choice feels awkward because it exposes the excuse you preferred. So authenticity becomes less like discovering a final identity and more like keeping an accurate account. Here is what happened. Here is what I cannot change. Here is where I still have to answer. You are neither a blank page nor a finished document. You are a life held between what is given and what remains yours to do. In ordinary life, this honesty rarely feels dramatic. It may happen halfway through an argument when you hear yourself speaking from a familiar role. The responsible one, the neglected one, the person who always fails. For a second, you notice that the role has stopped describing your life and started excusing your next move. Nothing disappears in that moment. The history is still real. The promise you made still binds you. The fear doesn't politely leave because you caught it at work, but the role loosens its grip. You can say, "Yes, this shaped me," without adding, "So everything I do now was already decided." Midost with Merciful. That small distinction can be severe. It takes away some comforting stories. You may have built an identity around being the one who never needs help. Then a friend offers it, and you feel the old refusal rise. Less false living doesn't mean finding the brave person hidden underneath. It means seeing that your pride has borrowed the language of identity. "That's just who I am" has become a clean excuse for staying untouched. The same thing happens with the past. A failure becomes proof that you're a failure. A betrayal becomes permission to distrust everyone. An old success becomes a demand to keep performing a version of yourself that no longer fits. Facts harden into sentences, and those sentences begin making choices on your behalf. The gain is not a final, settled self. It is a sharper refusal to let any one fact explain all of you. Your role may contain truth. Your past may limit what is possible. Your fantasy may reveal something you want. None of them gets to close the account completely. This can feel lighter, but it isn't peace on command. Once an excuse becomes visible, we still have to live without its protection. You may apologize and remain embarrassed. You may leave the old role and miss the approval it brought. You may choose more honestly and still wonder whether you chose well. That is the modest payoff. Fewer moments in which identity does your answering for you. You catch the sentence hardening, you loosen it, then you act while the burden remains. And because the burden remains, the old disguise keeps becoming useful again. Pretending offers quick shelter. Honesty only removes the roof you were calling the sky. A role can fit you well and still start to pinch. For a while, the label explains your days. It tells you what to value, how to act, and what other people can expect. Then some part of your life falls outside it. You succeed and feel strangely untouched. You fail and discover you're still more than the failure. The label hasn't become false. It has simply stopped being enough. We often treat this remainder as a sign that we chose badly. Perhaps the right career, relationship, community, or cause would settle us. Perhaps one better word could gather every loose part into place. Yet even ordinary roles show the same limit. You can be the successful one, the difficult one, the loyal partner, the rebel, the outsider, or the dependable worker. Each name may describe something real. None can finish the description. That's because you never fully become an object with a fixed meaning. A chair can be completely a chair. It doesn't wake at 3 a.m. and wonder whether furniture was a terrible decision. You do something less convenient. You live through the role while also noticing it, judging it, resisting it, and imagining what else you might do. The person wearing the label always exceeds the label. So identity fixes have a shelf life. They can organize a season, support a choice, or help you speak clearly. Then lived experience presses beyond their edges. The worker wants a life that productivity cannot measure. The rebel gets tired of being ruled by whatever they oppose. The outsider finds a place to belong and feels oddly exposed without the old distance. Even success can become awkward when it answers a goal, but not the person who reached it. When the old unease returns, we may feel embarrassed. We thought we had solved ourselves. We changed jobs, found love, left a group, joined another, or finally earned the title. Yet the unfinished feeling isn't proof that the effort was foolish. It belongs to a life that cannot be sealed inside one description. This makes the repetition easier to understand. We keep reaching for identities because they do useful work. They give shape to choices and make us legible to others. We keep outgrowing them because no shape contains the whole person for good. If every role leaves someone behind, why do we keep expecting the next one to settle us for long? Because the role works for a while. It softens the burden of having to choose, answer, and act without any final guarantee. Then ordinary life brings that burden back. A new conflict appears. Someone expects an answer. A choice closes one path and leaves another untouched. The old role returns because the relief it offers is useful again. It is less like discovering one hidden defect and more like meeting the same human difficulty under a different name. We often read this return as a personal failure. You notice yourself hiding behind the job title, the family role, the clever excuse, or the fantasy of who you'll become later. You think, I already understood this. Why am I doing it again? The obvious verdict is that the insight didn't work. Nothing changed. But no insight can make your freedom disappear. No perfect sentence can decide tomorrow's choices in advance. Sartre's point is uncomfortable for exactly this reason. The strain isn't a flaw that better self-knowledge removes. It comes with being a person who must keep living beyond every fixed account of who they are. So the repetition has a structure. The burden returns, the temptation returns, and the familiar disguise becomes attractive again. That doesn't make every excuse harmless. It doesn't mean we shrug and say, that's just how people are. It means recurrence tells us something more useful than one bad week does. It shows us the pressure is built into the situation, not proof that we're uniquely defective. Think of the same old role waiting at the end of a hard day. At breakfast, you may see through it clearly. By evening, after demands, mistakes, and one awkward conversation, it offers a ready-made script. Be the dependable one. Be the victim. Be the person who had no choice. Be the future success who doesn't need to act today. The lines are familiar because they reduce the weight for a moment. There is no need to turn that fact into despair. A recurring temptation is not the same as a fixed fate. We can recognize what the role is doing, even when we don't defeat it once and for all. We can stop treating its return as proof that every earlier choice was fake. And the repetition may remain part of the terrain. Our relation to it does not have to remain the same. The change may arrive quietly. You catch yourself saying, "That's just who I am," and hear the excuse hiding inside the sentence. Or you notice that being the responsible one has become a reason to control everyone around you. The role still feels familiar. It may even feel justified, but you see it hardening before it takes over the whole evening. That earlier notice matters. Most excuses don't enter our lives wearing a name tag. They arrive as stories that seem to explain everything. I had no choice. People like me always fail at this. After what happened, no one could expect more. One day, when I'm ready, I'll begin. A story can contain something true and still be used to escape the next honest choice. The goal isn't to become suspicious of every thought. It isn't to reach some pure state where you have no roles, no fantasies, and no need to protect yourself. That would be another fantasy, only dressed in serious clothes. You are still a person living among other people. You'll make promises, defend your pride, seek comfort, and sometimes explain yourself too generously. Less false living starts sooner and looks smaller. You notice when an identity stops describing your situation and starts excusing your behavior. You notice when a hope for the future becomes permission to neglect today. You notice when pain, success, duty, or disappointment gets recruited as proof that you couldn't possibly act differently. Recognition doesn't abolish the burden. The choice may still be hard. The familiar story may remain persuasive. You may follow it anyway, then understand what happened only later. But even delayed recognition changes the lie. It can no longer pass as the whole truth without resistance. And sometimes you catch it in time. You're lying in bed, replaying an argument, carefully casting yourself as the only reasonable person in it. Then a small discomfort appears. Not shame, just the sense that your version is doing a little too much work. You remember the sentence you left out, the motive you cleaned up, the apology you're avoiding. Nothing magical happens. The argument remains. Your pride remains. Yet the excuse has weakened because you can see it being built. That is an honest gain. The temptation may keep returning, but it no longer has to arrive unnoticed and speak in your voice. Sooner or later, you find yourself back in a quiet room. The day has stopped demanding answers, but the roles haven't. The reliable one, the difficult one, the successful one, the person who always leaves, the person who never does. Each role arrives with lines already written. It tells you what someone like you would do next. That offer can feel merciful. If the role decides, you don't have to face the mess of deciding. You can say, "That's just who I am," and turn a choice into a fact. You can call the habit your personality, the silence your nature, the ambition your duty. For a moment, answerability grows lighter. The role has answered before you could. There's no need to sneer at that relief. We all reach for it. Freedom sounds grand until it means admitting that no title, history, or personality test can finish the sentence for us. Our situation is real. Other people's expectations are real. The promises we've made matter. So do money, age, health, family, and the choices that can't be taken back. Freedom doesn't erase any of this. It lives among it. That's why the alternative isn't to throw away every role and announce some untouched self beneath them. There may be no pristine person waiting backstage, finally ready to walk into the light. Even rebellion can become a costume. You start performing the person who refuses to perform, and soon that identity has rules of its own. A role can still be useful. It can give shape to love, work, loyalty, and care. The trouble begins when its shape becomes an alibi. "I'm the strong one" can help you keep a promise. It can also excuse you from ever admitting fear. "I'm independent" can protect hard-won dignity. It can also decide, on your behalf, that asking for help is forbidden. The same identity can serve a life in one moment and hide it in the next. So the choice isn't between being completely false and finally becoming completely real. It's smaller, less glamorous, and more demanding. You can inhabit a role without pretending it has explained you. You can keep the promise without turning it into a prison. You can admit the forces acting on you without claiming they have authored every response. This won't remove the burden. Tomorrow the old lines may return before breakfast. In an argument, you may hear yourself protecting an identity instead of saying what happened. At work, you may feel the familiar relief of becoming only your function. Alone, with the phone face down and the room quiet, you may still wish there were one final description that could settle you. But now you can notice the moment a description asks for too much authority. You can hear when "this is part of my life" quietly changes into "this is all I can be." That pause doesn't reveal a secret self. It gives you a little room to answer with more honesty, and sometimes the honest answer will still be awkward, unfinished, or costly. It may simply be yours to give, without a role signing it first. The role may offer rescue, and you may sometimes accept its shelter. Just remember the price of letting it speak as fate. You don't need to become someone with no roles, no history, and no limits. Tonight, it is enough to live without letting the next script answer entirely for you.